Have you ever started a business because you just wanted to do something cool or meaningful? Today, we will discuss how first time founders build businesses primarily as an outlet of expression, usually creativity or enthusiasm, and how that actually turns into an extremely painful and expensive hobby that involves money. But keep watching and I'll explain this in more detail. In case you didn't know by now, my name is Jody, and I've seen the operational architecture and deep inner workings of the day to day management of more than 50 odd companies from countries such as the USA, Australia, New Zealand, here in Indonesia, Thailand, the UAE, the UK, Hong Kong, Nigeria, Tanzania, Bangladesh, and even Russia. Today's topic transcends boundaries because what I'm about to talk to you now is just human nature. Businesses exist to generate profit, not validate your identity. Ow, coming in hot with the guns blazing. I know it might be sad for most folks, but treating business as a tool to express yourself, your creativity, your enthusiasm, your need for competition typically means you neglect the fundamental principles of finance. Okay. Business is constructed in a way, capitalism, the function of capitalism is constructed in a way, these limited liability corporations are constructed in a way to generate profits. Profits is by design. If the primary objective of the company isn't to generate profits, eventually, if the company doesn't make more than what it puts in, it is not a business and you will start to hate it. Folks that start businesses that don't focus on generating money first will start to eventually hate their business. Keyword here being priority. Keyword here being the fundamental principle, the fundamental priorities of any given entity, any given financial entity is to generate profits. If it can't even achieve that, then everything else basically doesn't matter because you're just adding culture and layers and feel good stuff. That's really great. And that's very important too. But if it can't do that basic requirement of generating more than it churns out, right? Then it doesn't work. It also doesn't work if you are supplementing it. Eventually, companies that need constant supplementation, i.e., getting outside investors, right? In the everyday business folks, which is really what this YouTube channel is about, I'm talking about folks who are actually well off. Maybe they have inherited some money from their parents. They start a business that actually isn't profitable, but because they're getting an allowance or they have other income, whatever that may be, maybe it's through a divorce or what have you, and they're just shoving it into the business and making it seem like it's profitable. Eventually, that story will end. You might not really notice it, but eventually you're going to start hating the business one way, shape, or form because it's just constantly sucking, constantly asking for more supplementation because it's not self-sufficient. And this is the core topic that I want to discuss in this video. Because if you're like most people on planet Earth, you didn't start with millions of dollars of startup capital and degrees from Wharton and InSeed. When you start a business, it needs to be self-sufficient and it needs to generate excess money in order for it to work. Because you don't have the means to supplement it if it doesn't work. You don't have access to capital and short-term financing and call your rich uncle to keep paying for the lights to turn on because you don't have a choice. And so that we're in this weird world where I've personally seen a lot of founders that start a business and it looks really juicy. Like Instagram is nice, everything's really well polished, really well done branding, but I can just tell it doesn't make any money. And I've actually seen businesses. I've checked the financial statements. I'm like, holy shit, this thing doesn't make any money at all. But on the outside, it looks good. And the reason why the lights are still turned on, the reason why the business is moderately running is because it's being supplemented from a different source. Cash is being injected from a different source. So it gives this weird facade. And I see this a lot in the modern day. Another analogy I like to use is a business is like a baby. What does a baby need? The first response would be it needs good parents. It needs good values. It needs love and attention and care. And it absolutely does. As a father myself, a baby definitely needs those things. But what's the actual first thing a baby really needs? Food and water. So a business is kind of the same thing. A business needs money in order to sustain itself. And I think we've forgotten that somehow. We've overcomplicated things and we just add the culture and the brand. We're so obsessed about these things and we forgot about the absolute essential item, which is it just needs to make money first. And then all the other stuff is important because if a baby doesn't have food and water, then it can't be a healthy, high value, kind, loving human being, or you know what I mean? So get back to the basics. Another thing I want to drive home is the business itself, much like a human, much like a little baby, it doesn't care if you're tired, sad, or depressed. Oh, you didn't get your little creativity fixed. You just want to be a creative director and you want to neglect typical business operations and looking at your financial statements. I'm sorry it might offend people. The baby needs food and water. It does not care that you're tired and depressed and don't have the tools and time to express yourself creatively. Same thing with a business. It doesn't care about if you're sad or depressed. It needs the absolute essentials and it's going to keep asking you one way, shape, or form. And the only way around that is to focus on delivering that fundamental need first. Focus on it, embrace it, satisfy it, and hopefully exceed this expectation. Get to the basics. This thing about this channel is really about let's get back to the business basics, learn this stuff, do this stuff first, and then after that, you can slap on as much branding, culture, and whatever other ESG and all this stuff. Yes, there are large corporations that have huge budgets that can do that. Most people don't have this. People are thinking they should run their small, tiny two-man shop like a massive multinational. It just doesn't make any sense. I have seen it out in the field myself personally, and it causes so much personal pain for the founder and for the people around them, the employees, their customers, their family members watching them try to exceed and try to be successful in business because they lack the true fundamental understanding of what they should be focusing on. So if you're one of those folks, focus on making money first. Everything else doesn't effing matter. Once that's satisfied and your balance sheet's not negative, your cash flow is positive, then you can work on all the other stuff. Passion will eventually turn into resentment if the company doesn't make sufficient cash flows. I'm going to say this one more time. Passion turns into resentment if the company doesn't make sufficient cash flows. I have personally experienced this myself, and I have personally seen that other people experience it themselves as well. They start a business, they're super passionate. I mean, like to the point where they're delusional, right? I've literally heard like every vibration in my body says this thing's gonna work. That's usually the first red flag. You're sure, you're super sure, you've done the data, everything's, the energy is, but it doesn't make enough money. At the end of the day, you read the financial statements, it's not going in the right direction. I've experienced that on my first startup. My first startup, I didn't know what I was doing, but a little bit more on that later on. I want to get into the details and share my honest experience with my first startup. Okay, going back to finances. Ideally, you want to produce month over month or year over year increases in growth. This is the fundamental benchmark if whether a business is growing in the right direction. If it's not making more money than it did the year before, it can't even beat inflation. The concept of inflation, if you don't know the concept of inflation, right? Keeping money hidden in the ground, it literally devalues itself. So if your company can't even beat that mechanism, that government controlled mechanism, then you are losing. The real reason why any business fails is simple. It's because it didn't make any money. Why else would it fail? No, seriously. Actually, seriously, why else would a business fail if it didn't make enough money? Why would you close down a business that makes money? And I mean really makes money. I'm not talking like 1 or 2% net margins. I'm talking like it has a growing balance sheet. It makes more year over year, at least year over year. It has a positive net cash flow. Those three key metrics are constantly true year over year. Why would anyone shut that down? You might get the odd, yeah, because I'm not passionate about it. It could be because of market conditions and what have you, but majority of the reasons why I see founders close their business is because it doesn't make money, and it's because they themselves didn't focus on satisfying this first. I believe the reason why founders don't focus on this is because look at the trend. The trend right now is all about the facade, the visuals, even the copywriting now. Now you have AI. Everything is like all about the front end, but the back end is always so rotten. I've seen so much rotten back end. Like imagine like a beautifully picturesque business from the outside, glass and there's mannequins, absolutely perfect business. And then as soon as you walk in through the back and you go through the back of the business where the toilets are and where the employees put all of their items, it's just a complete shit show. Like the building's gonna crumble. The amount of times I've seen this over the last 12 years is absolutely incredible. So the reason why this happens all the time is because of clarity. Founders aren't focused on the things that matter. So clarity is important. Clarity is extremely important. If you don't have clarity, then you could potentially die. Your business could potentially die if you're not focused on the right things. I've seen it myself personally, right? And if you guys need clarity, right? We have a service called Ops Direct where I help founders, me myself, I actually help founders deal with whatever it is that they need to actually focus on, their business operations problem, their growth problems. Maybe it's accountability, right? The accountability to the self and to their team. Maybe it's leadership problem. Whatever it is, we actually deal with it right then and there. So if you're interested in that, check out the link in the description. Social media glamorizes entrepreneurs and makes it look overly easy, which causes the bar to entry to be so low, which generates, how do I say this, a wave of money making enthusiasts that don't really have any common basic business fundamentals. I myself have experienced this. This is why I'm sharing it. Hopefully, you won't make the same mistake if you're a first time founder. So, I started a company called Right Rhythm. It was a music technology platform that connected music producers with record labels. We had 90 subgenres of electronic music. We had 500 and something record labels, and it worked. The actual platform itself worked. Music producer would create a message and would add the tracks, and then based on the filtration mechanism, like Tinder matching, they would send their music to record labels looking for their specific genre. It worked. It actually worked. People got signed, including myself. The reason why that company failed is because I failed to focus on generating revenue. I was so obsessed, because I was a first time founder, of just making something that looked and worked. I didn't think about customer acquisition. I didn't understand it. I didn't know that that's what I was lacking. And I just burned through the money over 2 years, right? It was a bootstrapped company. I put $100,000 of my own money. This was like, I don't know how many years ago, more than 10 years ago. I built a product that worked, but it was ultimately it was a failure because I didn't focus on generating money. If the company had been generating more money, then I would have probably kept it going, right? So it was my naivete of starting a business like, oh, I just need to like make a product work and slap on all this fancy branding onto it, and then Bob's your uncle. No, I wasn't focused on driving revenue. That's really what happened. I didn't understand how to read financial statements at the time as well. I learned how to operate and learn to focus on what matters most. Another analogy is, when you're in the airplane, they do the instruction video where they say, put the oxygen mask on yourself before assisting others. You know that analogy? Do you actually know the reason why that is? Because they're telling you to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you help others. Because if you don't help yourself and the other person is struggling, then let's say you're helping somebody with their oxygen mask, and while you're doing that, you pass out. Now there's two people passed out. Do you see what I mean? The reason why you put an oxygen mask on yourself first is at least secure yourself so that you have the time to secure the other person, right? That's the reason why they do it. And so when you think about that analogy, it brings you back to first principles. It brings you back to the basics, what you should be focusing on until you satisfy the basics, then you can slap on the other stuff. Now, of course, you can run your business regardless of, I would start with just getting real with yourself. Are you starting this business to generate money, or are you starting this business to express yourself? Because if it's to express yourself, maybe there are other ways that you could express yourself that aren't so expensive. You could still continue to do the business, but maybe there's another way, right? Maybe there's another activity that you could do that isn't going to be so painful and so long and so and drag everyone with you because I've seen a lot of pain around this. If you're already running a business for a few years and it's going in the right direction, you might want to consider automating your operations. This is typically the next step. So before you start looking into that, watch the next video as it might help you.